Ethan Page and Impact Wrestling. It feels at this point we talk about Ethan Page every day here on the channel, but Ethan Page is always a topic of discussion at this point because obviously there is the issue when it comes to his contract expiring at the end of the year. He's not expected to re-sign with Impact Wrestling, and now he's been called out by an AEW wrestler, specifically the TNT Champion himself, Darby Allin. Now, of course, at the moment, there is this potential working relationship going on between AEW and Impact Wrestling. It's not even a potential working relationship, is it? It's an ongoing working relationship, and it's infused this kind of sense of optimism and wonder into the world of pro wrestling as to what potentially it could consist of, and specifically a talent trade. Could we see an AEW versus Impact Wrestling pay-per-view? Could we see an AEW versus Impact Wrestling TV special? Could we see a talent trade of sorts of having the likes of the AEW World Champion Kenny Omega now in Impact Wrestling? Could we see the Impact World Champion Rich Swann in AEW? Could we see Ethan Page go over to AEW? Might actually sign with AEW in the future, but we could see potentially a match between AEW TNT Champion Darby Allin and Ethan Page in the future. So in a recent interview, Darby Allin was asked who would he like to face in Impact Wrestling. Now this was asked by Sportskeeda Wrestling's Riju Dasgupta. Great guy, by the way. If you haven't checked out his work, go and check out his work. But he only had one name on his mind of the person he would like to face from Impact Wrestling, and that was none other than All Ego himself, Ethan Page. Why? Because Darby Allin and Ethan Page have history. They face each other on several occasions during their time together in Evolve, and Darby Allin also stated that he broke his elbow during one of his matches against Ethan Page. The incident happened at Evolve 82 when Darby Allin and Ethan Page had a last man standing match. During the match, Ethan Page hit Darby Allin with a shovel. The impact actually led Darby Allin to fracture his elbow. This is what Darby Allin said about the issue. He said, quote, "The only person I would say is Ethan Page, because 2-3 years ago, I stepped in the ring with him and he broke my elbow with a shovel, and I've never seen him since. So Ethan Page, I'd love to step in the ring with him and finish the business." So Ethan Page, of course, being the social media savvy pro wrestler that he is, was quick to respond to this and replied to an article on Twitter from Sportskeeda about how Darby Allin has unfinished business with him. He just quickly and easily said, quote, "I like winning bouts, so ... So potentially when we see Ethan Page leave Impact Wrestling, because he's not of course expected to re-sign with Impact Wrestling when his contract expires at the end of the year, potentially we could see Ethan Page versus Darby Allin inside of an AEW ring. Now the idea that Ethan Page is going to leave is very evident in his recent vlogs on his YouTube channel. He's on several occasions said this might be my last Impact Wrestling TV taping. During the vlogs himself, he's been talking to the likes of Swoggle and other wrestlers saying, "I'm really glad I got to face you before," and then kind of cuts himself off. He's basically suggesting that he's going to be leaving soon. In the latest vlog that he posted, he spent some time with his North tag team partner, Josh Alexander, in a long drive. They enjoyed a cheap meal and they talked about their careers in Impact Wrestling, almost as if to imply that their careers as a tag team in Impact Wrestling are going to come to a close soon because Ethan Page is going to be departing the company. So as I said, Ethan Page, he's leaving Impact Wrestling. We know that's the case. His vlogs have been talking about potentially being his last TV taping with Impact. And when it comes to the storyline, how are they going to play this out on Impact Wrestling TV? The dissension between the North has been very, very clear, hasn't it? It's been building for weeks. It was evident at Final Resolution. Josh Alexander removed the North sweatshirt this past week. Ethan Page kind of got involved in Josh Alexander's match, took a bump to reveal that his alter ego now has come out in the Karate Man, and his contract is up at the end of the year. We did a story yesterday where it was reported by Wrestling Inc. that he's spoken to AEW and MLW and WWE over the summer, and Impact Wrestling allowed him to do that, even though Ethan Page told us himself he was going to do that and was doing it when he did an interview with Sports Illustrated. Hardly an exclusive. But nevertheless, we spoke about that tomorrow. I don't want to chew my food twice on that one. He's not expected to re-sign with Impact Wrestling, so he's on the way out. And I've said about his future before, and I'll say it again here because Darby Allin has kind of brought it up in this interview. I said before that I expect Ethan Page to sign with AEW because that makes the most sense. If you look at all of his options logically, I don't think he would want to lose all of his outside interests. If he went to WWE, he would. If he goes to MLW, it's a lateral move at best, I think. AEW is a step up. It's better money. He'd be featured as a top, maybe not the top single star. I think that could come eventually down the line, but he would be a featured player on that show. And I've also said before that I think Ethan Page can be a world champion. I said before that I wish he stayed with Impact Wrestling and he would re-sign, because I think in Impact Wrestling as a single star, he can be a world champion. He can be a main eventer, Impact World Champion right now. Whereas if he goes to AEW straight away, is he going to go straight into that main event scene? Absolutely not. He's just not. The roster is too packed, too crowded, and there are people, quite frankly, ahead of him in that line to challenge for the AEW World Championship that Kenny Omega currently holds. So, in reality, right now, if he were to go to AEW tomorrow, and it might just be in a couple of weeks' time that he goes to AEW once his contract with Impact expires, he is right now best suited for the TNT Championship picture. Now, he absolutely, in the future, when it comes to Ethan Page, he could be on the level of a Kenny Omega, of a Jon Moxley, of a Cody Rhodes, Chris Jericho, etc. I could go on and on. That roster is so deep in AEW, and I'm sure all of those names I just mentioned, whether it is Omega, Moxley, Rhodes, Jericho, etc., I'm sure they would all love to work with Ethan Page. He's an up-and-coming star with a ton of potential and is great on the microphone. All of those guys would thrive to work with him in the future, but this is the issue when it comes to AEW, isn't it? This is the issue that I think some people are concerned if Ethan Page does jump to AEW, is that it's a very, very crowded roster. It's a very, very crowded roster, and there is a lack of TV time available. They have 2 hours on TNT per week at this moment. Yes, he can appear on AEW Dark, and that show is about 5 hours long with a ton of enhancement matches. It's like going to watch a WWE Superstar TV taping in the 1990s or 1980s. It really is that long. But the prime time position when it comes to AEW is 2 hours on TNT right now. Yes, we know a second show is coming to TNT. Initially, they said before the end of the year, that's not going to happen at this point, so we're looking at 2021. There is a concern if he goes to AEW, then suddenly it's a big roster, a bloated roster, with a short amount of TV time. Would Ethan Page get lost in the shuffle? Now, I don't think he would get lost, but I think opportunities might be few and far between to really do something impactful, pun intended, because of just the sheer lack of TV time. But I do think he would slot nicely into that TNT Championship division in AEW right now. I think an issue and a concern that some people might have when it comes to Ethan Page going to AEW, a great example is Miro, right? The former Rusev in WWE. Miro right now should be challenging for a world championship. He comes in, when did he come in? Back in August at this point, I think. He comes in and everyone is absolutely buzzing because finally, someone is going to use Rusev properly. After how over he got in WWE with Rusev Day and Aiden English and his merch being the #1 seller and everyone at WrestleMania chanting his name and Rusev Day. Finally, after years of not being used properly by WWE, Rusev, Miro in AEW was going to use properly, and maybe we could see Miro in a main event spot. Instead, he's paired with Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford, which I have nothing against those guys. I'm a fan of them both, actually, but it's an odd pairing. It's a very odd pairing. And then they feud with the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy over breaking a video game, arcade game at ringside. That was broken, right? I mean, I get it. They're gamers, they stream, but come on. Miro is better than that, and I think he's a much bigger star, and he's worthy of doing better things. Now, in fairness, in recent weeks, we have seen Miro show more aggression. He technically closed the show, right, on Dynamite last week. But this guy at this point needs to be in a world title picture, and I understand, give it time, have patience. But if Miro's not in that title picture, then I don't think Ethan Page is going to be in that title picture when he comes into AEW either. Tony Khan spoke about when people comes in, they have to win matches, go up the rankings, and I understand that. It's only in rare occasions, like with a Brian Cage, former Impact World Champion, that he can come in and part of the match was he can earn an Impact AEW World Championship opportunity. So I understand that point of view. So if Ethan Page came in, I guess he would have to do the same as Miro and go up the rankings. So it would make sense that if he does come in, potentially he can go straight away and challenge for the TNT Championship, and that could be against Darby Allin. And I suppose what could be seen as a positive for Ethan Page, if he does come in and challenge Darby Allin straight away in AEW, is that at this point in time, because we might be looking at a couple of months' time here, at this point in time, we could see a scenario where Darby Allin is managed or mentored by none other than the icon, TNA Hall of Famer himself, Sting, because of course Sting is now in AEW, and it looks very much like that Sting and Darby Allin are going to be involved. Of course, you've got Darby Allin sitting in the rafters a lot. Every time Sting's there, Darby Allin's in the rafters, and Sting's pointing at Darby Allin, so it looks like there's going to be some form of a connection when it comes to Sting and Darby Allin in AEW. So if Ethan Page does come in, and he's facing Darby Allin for the TNT Championship, or at least he's feuding with Darby Allin in AEW, and at this point Darby Allin has Sting in his corner, I mean, talk about an opportunity. I mentioned that Ethan Page might have a problem standing out, or it's a bloated roster, getting lost in the shuffle as it were. Well, if you're feuding with someone that's got Sting in their corner, you are not lost in the shuffle. You're heavily featured in, and what a platform. What a platform, what an opportunity to succeed, because also as well, pretty much at this point, I know he's been in a couple of segments on TNT at this point, but Every segment Sting's in, he is just knocking it out of the park, not only creatively and by the performance, but in terms of the ratings as well. Every time Sting's on camera, they get over 1 million live viewers, let alone when it comes to DVR or anything like that on demand and all that kind of stuff. So if Ethan Page was even vaguely involved in all of that scenario, that would be huge for Ethan Page. So potentially if he does come in and face Darby Allin and challenge for that TNT Championship and have Sting involved in that, that would be a huge, huge opportunity for Ethan Page. I mean, talk about the rub there. I mean, being on the same segment as Sting, being seen by over 1 million live people at that time, and having such a high viewership in the demographic, the key 18 to 49 demographic, it would be massive. It would be massive for Ethan Page. So I think another thing you have to consider if Ethan Page does go to AEW, now that we're talking about Ethan Page and his potential future in AEW, whether that is feuding with the likes of Darby Allin, is does he join a faction in AEW? Because I think a way that AEW have seen to overcome this issue of having so many people on the roster right now is that they're trying to put everyone in all of these different factions. And I don't mind that. Actually, I'm quite a fan of it. I think it reflects real life quite well. I think if you look at the world of MMA, right, almost everyone's almost got their own faction. Everyone's almost got their own gym that they train in, whether it's, was it Team Alpha Male or whatever. And it's the same with boxing. Everyone's got their own boxing gym and coach that they train with, and they're part of these big factions of fighters. So I like that idea and concept by AEW. It's a play off New Japan, because of course in New Japan everyone's in a faction as well. So there is kind of this huge amount of factions in AEW, and I think if Ethan Page does go in, quite frankly, I think it would probably be in his best interest that he does go into a faction so he doesn't get lost in the shuffle. Obviously, we've seen recently, this past week on Impact Wrestling, that Ethan Page debuted Karate Man, or showed at least Karate Man in Impact Wrestling. I gave my thoughts on that yesterday, so I don't want to delve too deeply into this, but I still think the same that I thought yesterday, in the sense that I'm surprised they're doing this in Impact Wrestling, considering that at this point, I mean, how many appearances does Ethan Page have left in Impact Wrestling? What, 3, 4? Considering that his contract expires on January 1st, 2021, I just didn't think they would go to this comedic route in terms of the breakup of the North, because the breakup of the North is happening. So I think that's a bit odd, and personally that isn't what I would want to see. Personally, like I said, I wish Ethan Page would stay with Impact Wrestling for at least a year, and they do this whole big angle with the North breakup that could last 2-3 months and play out on a big pay-per-view like Slammiversary or Bound for Glory or something like that, because it's worth that. They were the longest reigning Impact Wrestling World Tag Team Champions in history. Their breakup deserves to be a bit longer than that. Nevertheless, the end is near. The end is near, isn't it, when it comes to Ethan Page and the North in Impact Wrestling right now? As I mentioned, personally, I would have him stay an extra year. Because he could then be world champion. I think if he did stay an extra year, he would at some point be the world champion. And then I think him coming into an AEW or WWE, wherever he goes, I think it'll be AEW though, going into an AEW, he would have far more buzz and momentum about him. He wouldn't just be known as Ethan Page, one of the longest reigning tag team champions in history, and this great promo guy. He'd be known as Ethan Page, former Impact World Champion, one of the hottest free agents in the business. Now, when his contract expires at the end of the month, he'll be one of the hottest free agents in the business anyway. I just think his stock could have been even higher, and it would have been worth only a year's worth of investment on his part. I don't know. Look, he would have been negotiating with Impact Wrestling, so maybe he did say, look, I'll stay around for a year. Maybe Impact wanted him for 2 or 3. I don't know the situation when it comes to that. It is what it is when it comes to Ethan Page and his status, as it were, when it comes to Impact Wrestling. We've known that for a while now. So I expect him to sign with AEW in January, or maybe a little bit later. We don't know when AEW has plans to debut Ethan Page, and possibly we will get the match that Darby Allin wants. Possibly we will have Darby Allin versus Ethan Page inside of a AEW ring. As far as I'm aware, right now they're not doing the whole TNT Open Challenge anything for the TNT Championship Open Challenge anymore, I don't think. If they were, it'd be a great way to debut Ethan Page, although I think we've probably seen enough people make their debuts in that open challenge format. There's other ways to debut people, especially someone with the caliber of Ethan Page, so maybe there should be a bit more pomp and circumstance, as it were, when it comes to Ethan Page's debut in AEW, when I do think it does happen. So maybe we'll go see Darby Allin versus Ethan Page in that match against Darby Allin in AEW. Do I think anything at this point has been spoken about internally when it comes to AEW with a Darby Allin versus Ethan Page feud? Absolutely not. I almost certainly not. I don't think they've said, well, after they do all of this stuff on TV, he's going to be facing Ethan Page. Page hasn't even signed a deal with anyone, as far as I'm aware, yet. Yes, he's had discussions, but Darby Allin's very busy right now in a storyline with Sting, Cody Rhodes, and Team Taz. And speaking of Team Taz, once Ethan Page does come into AEW, if he does, I think possibly he could be another member of Team Taz. And possibly they could frame it as, look, we're bringing in someone who has some history of you, someone who's broken your bones. And then perhaps Ethan Page once again comes out with a shovel and attacks Darby Allin. I mean, how do you counter Sting and his baseball bat and Darby Allin and his skateboard? You bring in Ethan Page with a shovel. So they could play off that history. That could be a lot of fun to see. But Darby Allin wants to have a match against Ethan Page, and possibly that match will happen very soon because, of course, Ethan Page's contract is expiring with Impact Wrestling very, very soon. But, of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Darby Allin wanting to face Ethan Page inside of an all-elite wrestling ring? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, chatting about Impact Wrestling, AEW, WWE, all that fun stuff here on the channel, all that pro wrestling stuff. So get involved in the community below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button. Really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.